Good morning, everyone. This is Sandra Alexei from Game Changer. And this is the new relationship book and also my personal muse. So you can look underneath where the show me and you can see my link to the website. And I would appreciate if you would like a share and possibly subscribe. And I'm really excited today to bring Peter back. And so I would love to see some comments, okay, about any questions or anything you would like to say, because at this point I'm also giving a free reading once a month, a free mini reading for anyone that I draw their name. So I'm going to put this over to Peter, and we've interviewed him once. We've interviewed his wife, Shelley, and now he has got some really interesting things to tell us or to share with us, and not tell us. Peter, you're about sharing, and you come from a sharing point of not just intellect, which I like about you, but from your heart. So it's like more of a combined sense of embodiment, and you're somebody that doesn't take it in just intellectually, but I think that you actually embody the information, and so that you, and the wisdom, and you can live it. And eventually maybe you can say, because you guys did get a copy of Game Changer, and maybe and you can say, you know, like, we're just starting it, or this type of thing, because it's not about that. Today it's about you watching another video and how you've processed from the time I interviewed you and met you, and then with Shelley. And
that last part I missed. How I processed from what?
How you've processed from the first time I met you, then you first video, then Shelley, your wife, did the video. Okay, Shelley, your wife, and then we're going to do it with you today. And then I want to see you and Shelley come together and to share. So we've kind of gone through the whole thing. So now I'm quiet, and I'm just going to let you go ahead and you start and go wherever you want to go. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I want to ask if you have anything specifically that you want to discuss, because since the last time we talked, I won't say that my mind's blown, but so much stuff has happened in these 4 or 5 weeks. It's unbelievable. One of them, I was actually reading your book last Friday when you sent me that video of Sophie O'Shea. I mean, what she talks about, I lived last year, like, and it darn near killed me, right? So now not everyone's going to be able to relate to her video and what she speaks about, but what she is speaking about, unconditional love, I've been speaking about for like the last year and a half or more, ever since I met my person. So if you look at the last video, that woman I met on holiday with my wife and her friend, my understanding of love, and not love the way that it's being programmed into us through Hollywood and romance novels and music and whatever else, right? Because that is a very, very, very conditional love, right? So you know, everybody has their checklist of a wife, of a husband, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, right? But this unconditional love that Sophie talks about, related to the divine, I was going to say she has no idea, but I'm at the point of coalescing this through science, neuroscience. You know, my last, I spoke a little bit about my professor there, and had found last night a video that would just blow your mind and answer a lot of questions to a lot of people who watch this thing, to watch your show, your channel. So from the scientific to the scriptural, except without religion, because like I said on the last video, like, everybody knows religion is bullshit and it's clearly not working. So so I think the most important thing for anybody ever to understand and to talk about is love, and it is unconditional love, right? So again, it's not I love you if, you know, and fill in the blanks and stuff like that. Now that's important as far as boundaries go, and people setting up, you know, compatibility and living arrangements and things like that. That's why I was so excited to read your book, right? Or, you know, to start reading it and doing the exercises. So there's just so much to talk about. So I want to ask you what direction you want to take it into.
Okay, this is perfect, Peter, because I think it's kind of out there. And one of the things that I really find fascinating with you is that you are open, okay, and you have common sense and are basically fundamental, and then you are very very philosophical, and you can bring it down. And interesting when you say the word love, and then I want to get to you, because Dr. Christine Northrup said something really interesting about the word love. Okay, she said, everybody has this kind of ephemeral, I love you, and I love chocolates, and I love this, and I love that. And she said, and nobody wants to be authentic. Everybody thinks they're going to hurt somebody. And as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have emotional honesty with anyone, you're hurting them. So it's about authenticity. And what she said, and Peter, and we'll talk about this, is that love is actually, she said, when you see somebody doing something wrong, or you're feeling something that might hurt their feelings, you need to bring it up, because we're suppressing it. That's like true love. You can go through that. So number one, I think that's really important. We talk about the love. The second one is, you're right. So when it came to Game Changer, it was just like, be really basic, because people get all caught up in the sexual aspect of it. Okay, because it's a chemistry. That's the bottom line. However, it's more now moving to the logic, and we're changing as our frequencies changing. We are changing. We're moving from 3D to 5D. It's more about a deep spiritual love. It's about a soul love. It's about supporting each other on the journey rather than controlling them. So if you really love someone and they meet someone, you have to be prepared. You can't control them. Okay, it's like, be open with it. Okay, that's the next thing. And with Sophie, what she talked about, and it was really funny how I connect with people, synchronicity. It is so true what she said. And the interesting thing, about 3 or 4 months ago, I said, we are tying up a lot of past life karma. So what's happening right now is people, ancestral and past life, people who you had a past life with, are coming back into your life. That doesn't mean that you're going to walk away from the relationship you are, but you need to be able to integrate it instead of hiding it and suppressing it and that type of thing. It's opening and to be free. So the whole thing, what she talked about, and I'm going to leave it right there, the soulmate aspect and the twin flame aspect. Okay, and now I'm going to let you take it away, and you can go from there.
Okay, and I want to watch that video again of you and Sophie, except this time only concentrate on your facial expressions as she expounds on things, right? Because it's she was using exact words that I've been using, and didn't even know how or where or why they were coming out, right? Now, I also understand that my personality is a little bit overwhelming to people, and I'll put it, and I'm sure yours is as well, right? You said you scored very high on the Peterson's disagreeability test, right? So I'll tie a little bit back into, I don't want to talk that much about myself, but I think a lot of the last video I spent kind of laying out some credentials or stuff like that, but it's going to be important to touch on some of that stuff as well. So, and excuse me for the wet hair, right? I mean, Shelly came into the shower and she goes, "You got 4 minutes till you're on with Sandra," right? So like, you know, so you're getting it real and authentic and unscripted and everything, right? So, and you mentioned something before about with love and people attributing kind of these emotions and feelings and kind of the body chemistry that elicits these. One thing, and I forget where I've heard it from, is that the neural pathways of spirituality, and there's definitions for that, and sexuality, like they run on parallel or the same kind of neural pathways. So there's this overlap that seems that kind of makes people uncomfortable, right? And especially if they don't know themselves and they're not used to introspecting or whatever, so they get freaked out, which is kind of one of the ways in which I overwhelm people. Like I know from my teenage years, I have a cousin, you know, that has masters in native studies and stuff like that, and she was always looking you know, towards spiritual stuff and mystical stuff back when I was a teenager, and she would bring me to stuff, you know, to some of these things to sit in and observe and participate in. And we were on the subway one time, and she's very kind of, I don't know if dowdy is the word, an introvert, but very intellectual, very sensitive, as most people are, but are suppressed. And she said, you know, back in my teenage years, she goes, wow, I get like this sexual energy from you type thing, right? Now, at the time, I didn't know how interconnected they were with spirituality and stuff like that. But this overwhelmingness is or my personality. And I've met like probably over 100,000 people in my life and have talked, you know, on openly, as you see I am, with them, let's say about on average an hour, through my other business that is totally unrelated to what I studied and things like that, like automotive business. But they would be in my waiting room and we would just kind of talk and connect somehow. And in fact, Shelly sometimes would come by, you know, the shop and walk in and listen to me talking to somebody, and they would leave and she would say, oh, wow, how long have you known that person? And I would say, well, I don't know, I just met him today about an hour ago. And she's like, what? And they're telling you all of this personal stuff and things like that. And I said, yeah. Now, I was never aware of what was going on, right? Like connecting with people and intuition, and Persinger describes it as probably activity in the parahippocampal area that actually vibrates on the Schumann resonance of the earth. So when you talk about all these stars and wandering stars and energies out there aligning and magnifying and suppressing and all of this stuff, it's true. Like this guy studied everything from astronomy and astrology right to zoology and tried to coalesce it all. Maybe I'll try and send you a link to that video and you can kind of post it, and if anybody wants to watch that, like they'll glean a lot of information from this. Right. And I'm talking that I connected with people through, you know, 30 years from all walks of life, all over the world, because my business was in Toronto primarily, which is probably one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. And as far as cultural mixes, I don't think there's any city in the world that has more of a cultural mix from absolutely everywhere. Right. So basically everything from bums barely hanging on to like world famous neurosurgeons that, you know, that run, you know, like the Cleveland Clinic, for example. So my life experience, now I see it all interconnected and not a chance, not a coincidence. Just like last Friday when you sent me the video of Sophie and I'm reading your book, I had just gotten off the phone with a microbiologist in Quebec that's also an alchemist and investigating the flow of life, right? Her name is Julie, and you know, we spoke for, I don't know, hour and a half or whatever, and we're still in communication. But all kinds of other things that are like, you would think I'm making it up if I didn't have it documented or have Shelly here to witness it and all this kind of stuff and have people to call upon and like, did this happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? So So if I overwhelm your viewers, it's sort of like if they're like a, you know, little bottle and I have a 5-gallon pail and I'm trying to fill the little bottle, it's like I'm not pouring it in by measure through a funnel and being very careful. It's just kind of like boom, and it's just inundating them with everything almost. So I want to try and kind of take that out of the equation, because I've always known that people somehow, like, they either really like me or they hate me. Like they'll and I think that happens to most people, but most people are people pleasers and this and that and the other thing. Now, first year university in just introductory psychology, we had a professor that gave out a test on locus of control, like how much outside influence you and how much you're influenced from inside.
Right.
So I got like 19 out of 20 on internal locus of control, right? And she thought I cheated, and I'm thinking, well, how do you cheat on a questionnaire, right? But I have a very strong internal sense of control, right? Like I somehow trust myself. I pair it with information. I analyze it, scrutinize it, run it through the statistics, so on and so forth. So do you want me to tie it back in a bit to the last video and how I met this woman? Because I don't really want to talk too much about her specifically, and especially since Sophie said things that it's not about the other person. This event, go ahead. You talk on that one, because
just a second. There's one thing here that I picked up. Number one, I eventually would love to do a video with you on the locus of control, especially because we are in a time right now. We are to go within, and we are to have more mastery. I call it like mastery of self. Number one. So I've written that down. The second thing, I think all you need to say is that explain what for you Sophie was. The next thing I'm going to recommend is that you and Sophie do a video together. I'm going to get a hold of her and tell her you and her need to connect. And I would love to see the two of you do a video and share that video on the YouTube, because it was so, and again, I can't remember how I connected with her, but we just went like this, and that's what's happening right now. So I want to say that. The third thing is, when people talk about sexuality, one of the greatest books, and I've read thousands of books, is Napoleon Hill, and it's chapter 13, and it's the transmutation of sexual energy. When you talk about alchemy, okay, that was the name of my first book, Spawn Salon Alchemy, and that's what we're alchemizing right now as individuals, what we're going through. So what I would like Peter to do, Peter talked about how he met someone when he was on holidays, and then take that, Peter, to what happened to you when you listened to Sophie, because Sophie, she talked about soulmates, and she talked about what are they called?
Twin flames.
Twin flames, and people are not quite sure what a twin flame is and what that is. And she described it perfectly. And right now we are all going through a process of redefining and understanding our lessons from past life karma, ancestral, our own personal past life, and this life. So it ties in. So that'll give you a place to just say, okay, I met this person and this is what I gleaned, especially after listening to Sophie. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. So
and then you and Shelley are going to come and tie this together.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. Shelley is so instrumental in all of this, and remind me to mention the moment she fell in love with me after 29 years, right? And when I say that in the way it ought to be, and not only at that moment when she fell in love with me, immediately after, she fell in love with this other woman that I met on the holiday that she's friends with as well. So mind-blowing stuff, to say the least. So I'll just quickly summarize the, you know, the meeting type thing on the holiday.
Yeah.
Shelley and I, kind of the first full day, we had come up from the beach.
You guys went on a holiday after. I just want to get back. You, as a husband and wife, had gone on a holiday down to Mexico or whatever.
To Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. Yeah, and I think she said in her video, like, it was kind of the first holiday that we'd had alone since honeymoon, like without the kids and all that stuff. So it was fabulous. Like, don't think that I spent my entire time with these two other women, right? Like we were still having a fabulous time, and still are, by the way. Like, every day we wake up now is just exciting. Like,
perfect. Love it.
So we had come up from the beach, and we were just kind of sitting in the pool side by side with our feet dangling in the water. And I'll refer to it as my other person now, right? Sort of like Sophie does. And she had gotten in the pool, but I wasn't paying any attention to her, like, at all, like, just other than, you know, person. And she started swimming laps in front of me with this little floaty board between her thighs. And again, I wasn't looking at her, but every time she swam away from in front of us, like, she'd go from one end to the other in front of us, right off the edge of her shoulder, her left shoulder, the way the sun was in the sky and the way it was glinting off the water, you know, like when you have the water and little sparkly diamonds and rainbows and waves and stuff like that. I remember having the distinct feeling, and it's all wordless, staring intently into this spot every time she swam away, that I was staring into eternity somehow. Like, that's the word that I can describe it, right? So she swam for however long, 20 minutes and stuff like that. And we were just kind of chilling out there, enjoying the day. And she stopped, and I said to her, I was going to tell you to put the little floaty thing instead of between your thighs, down between your ankles, because then you would have kind of more stress on your upper body that, you know, it's obviously that you want to train. I said, but then I looked at your shoulder muscles and saw that you must do this like all the time, right? Based on your physique. And she laughed and said, oh no, I've only been doing this for a couple of months. Like, you know, I have a serious leg injury, and I can't run anymore. I run twice a day. I found out later she was like a national level track athlete, right? So anyway, we ended up talking, and I told you, I guessed her name, and, you know, however that happened. And there was a moment there that in one of the conversations that I hesitated to say something. She'd asked me my name, and I knew she was referring to my given name. Now, what people's real names are, I don't even think they have any idea, type thing, right? So you're Sandra because your mom and dad or aunt or uncle or neighbor, whoever suggested that you be Sandra, right?
Right.
Now that all falls into the numerology, which you did on me back in July.
Yeah.
And, you know, gave me the report, which basically I could have written. I was laughing so much, right? And especially the part that pertained to the other person there.
Right.
You know, that Sophie actually touched upon as well. So, so I hesitated to tell her my name because a few years before that, Shelley and I were down in Florida visiting our daughter. She was on a golf scholarship at Seminole State College of Florida, and in the Orlando area. So we had rented a place on the other side of Orlando, the west side, about an hour away, and had stopped in to see her for a day or two and stuff like that. And I said to Shelley, I said, hey, listen, do you want a coffee? And she goes, yeah, and the truck needs gas. So I said, great, I'll go to the gas station. I'm going to get us coffees. And I still even don't know how Shelly likes her coffee, by the way, you know, after 30 years. But, you know, so she tells me how she wants it. And because I'm oblivious to like the obvious stuff, I'm oblivious to. It's the subtle stuff that nobody picks up on is the stuff I pick up on.
Really?
And I went to the gas station, you know, I lined up, and there was this slender black girl, had a little do-rag on, you know, whatever. And I step up, and she said, hey baby, how can I help you? And I was like, bing, like all of a sudden, like my whole body resonated. And I looked at her and I said, say that again. And she says baby, the way she says in that Southern American drawl or whatever. And I was like, man, that is my name, right? Baby is my name, right? So,
Right.
I got home, I told Shelly, I said, honey, I just found out my real name, right? And she said, what is it, baby, right? And she tried to say it, and I'm like, no, you're not saying it like she says it. It's the way she says it is how it is.
Yeah.
So, a few months later, my brother was having an anniversary party for his salon, right? And he invited me down. And I said, listen, man, like I'm busy at work. I don't know if I'm going to be here. Shelly and the kids are at a golf tournament in America somewhere. I said, I'll let you know, but, you know, don't put me down as a yes or a no. I'll show up if I show up. So I showed up. Beautiful day in Yorkville. And Yorkville is like, you know, one of the best places in Canada to hang out, right? Like,
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, you know, so this, you know, the sun's out, it's late in the day, you know, people are coming in all dressed up for this party, like people being dropped off in limousines and, you know, so it's everywhere from shampoo girls to billionaires, right?
Right.
And I'm there in flip flops. I'm just being me, you know? And, this is kind of how I had been hooking into my intuition without knowing it, right? Actually, the year before, in 2016, I had to pick up my daughter in Georgia from the national championships, and I stopped at duty free over here in Windsor, and I got a pack of Colts, like these tipped cigars, you know, and you know, bottle of liquor, whatever. And I started driving because it was like a 16-hour drive, and I drove through the whole night, and you know, I started smoking, and I hadn't smoked in who knows how long, years and years and years. But somehow I was compelled to like smoke. And as I smoked these cigars, I remember thinking, I just want to suck the juice out of life. You know what I mean? Like this is the thought in my head, right? So I went down there, you know, from there we picked her up. She had a US Women's Open qualifier to go to for a couple of days. We spent a fabulous week there, met another pro golfer, whose dad was caddying for her. Parental relationships and children relationships is huge. Like when Sophie said in her video that you understand everything, that when this happens to you, like you have no choice, nowhere to go, but to actually go through this. And I'll tell you, last summer, it almost killed me. You can ask Shelly, like it just going through this process of getting rid of the gunk, as Sophie calls it, of life and, you know, all the programming, all the BS. So anyway, so so the year before I want to suck the juice out of life. So now I'm operating on intuition. I get to my brother's party and I go outside for a smoke, and I'm sitting on the stairs, and, you know, and they go down, I don't know, 10, 12 stairs, and my brother's greeting guests on the street, you know, like kiss, kiss, blah, blah, blah. And this one of his clients walked in, and she would have been kind of mid-30s and just, you know, and they stopped and chit-chatted for a bit, and she walked up past me. We didn't talk. I just kind of looked at her, and she went inside to the party, and I looked down at my brother. It was just the two of us at this point. And I said, wow, this girl, I said, like if she was wearing cutoffs and a sweatshirt with her hair up in a ponytail, sitting on the end of a dock with the sun setting, you wouldn't know what was more beautiful, this girl or the setting sun. Like it was just like that, right? And he goes, yeah, I know what you mean, right? So boom, I went back into the party, and, you know, I'm milling about, seeing people I haven't seen in years, and his staff and new people and all this kind of stuff. And I ran into this girl, and we started talking. And because in the last video towards the end, we talked about attention, like pay like attention and how important it is. So very important. So we started talking and having a good time. I don't even remember what we were really talking about. And she was just laughing and, you know, tossing her hair and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, and I'm doing my thing. And then there were other people. Like, I remember this one Amazon, this former model standing there. She kept trying to interject into the conversation and other people. And I was like, you know, I didn't say leave us alone, but like, we're busy. Like we're actually now having a moment. The way I refer to her is the moment, like in my mind.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we talked, and you know, I'm picking up all the signs: pupil dilation, hair tossing, like any of this stuff. Things that, you know, scientifically are provable for attraction. But I'm not trying to pick her up because I'm happily married. I have a perfect family. You know, I'm living life, and I actually ended up telling her what I said to my brother, like just open heart, just whatever. And this is key, like speaking from the heart. And, you know, and I just said this, right? And I also used another word in Macedonian, which is simpatichna, which doesn't easily translate, but to summarize it, it would be kind of like simpatichna is like, it's more than charming and innocent and I don't know, well-mannered and countenanced and everything. It's just one of these words that just, if you know it, boom, you say it and you don't have to say any more, right? So I kind of told her this stuff. Now, my sister-in-law was at the party as well, and I guess she perceived what was going on somehow because it looked, I don't know how it looked, whatever, right? So she makes a beeline over to us, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Peter. You know, how's Shelly and the kids?" Right? So yeah. So I look over at the moment, and I say to her, but speaking to my sister-in-law, I say, "Well, they're in Tennessee, just like I told you. Like, I'm not trying to pick her up type thing." But I remember the distinct feeling and thinking it through my head that if this girl were to ask me to run away with her, like tonight, I would be like, holy fuck, am I really going to do this? So again, I'm not telling anybody this. Well, now everybody knows, but Shelly knows because I couldn't wait to get home to tell her. Right.
Peter, kid, I just want to stop. I think that's the most important thing right now. What you're doing is you're actually being authentic and being in the moment. Okay. So what happened half an hour ago is done, because in this moment it's important, and that's the juice of life. That's where a lot of people don't find meaning, okay, because they can't be themselves. So if you can sit in the juice in life and be honest, and yes, you are attracted to her. Does that mean you're going to take her to bed? Does that mean you're going to fall in love with her? You're enjoying that moment, and the other person needs to know that. That's where you can't, people want to control. You can't talk to somebody. You can't do this. That is where you shrink. That's what they call the shrinking violet. It's about being yourself in that moment. Okay. And so you've experienced that. However, then you actually probably run into a twin flame. And that's what kind of, we call it shattering.
Well, that's not even the word. That's not even the word. Like that experience with my person on holiday and afterwards, like, it knocked me flat on my ass for the summer. Like, I had calluses from sitting on my ass, like literal calluses. Shelly will laugh. Like, I was immobilized, and I was trying to figure out what this was, what exactly happened to me. And I had been doing research 20 hours a day, right? Like, and double the speed. So, you know, take like, again, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, any of these guys that download a lot of information in any conversation, I was listening to these guys at double the speed, like anything and everything, trying to get to the bottom of what had now basically turned my entire world upside down, like just fucking mind shattering. So
just to make sure that people are knowing what we're doing, this comes now when you're on holidays with Shelley, you meet this person, and this person, what happened at a soul level just kind of blew you away.
Oh yeah. Like, it's like, and if anyone's gone through this, and I think Sophie would corroborate this, like, you do not wish this on your worst enemy.
No.
Yet what she said is that this person, by mirroring basically your soul back to you, becomes your greatest teacher.
That's it.
Right? And it helps you to get fully integrated, right? So that you don't need this other person. Now, until you get to this point, you have no idea what the fuck is actually going on, you know? So I really feel for people that are going through this right now. And I suspect there are tons of them now because of some of the things you talk about astrologically, but also geomagnetically in the world, and, you know, culturally, politically, like, yeah. you name it. Like I remember telling Shelley, like, I figured out everything, which basically Sophie in her video corroborated. I had like 8 pages or 10 pages of notes halfway through a 35-minute interview that you had with Sophie. Like, I didn't take that many notes in all of university, I'll tell you that, right? Like, I was so riveted with what she had to say. Because it was exactly paralleling and using the exact words and feelings that I had experienced. So anyway, my sister-in-law, you know, kind of went back type thing, because I'm not hiding anything, right? Because I'm not trying to pick up this girl. You know, she's telling me about her kid, her husband, whatever. Like, I am having the best time. And she goes, I'm going to get some drinks. And they had, you know, it was being catered, right? So the bar was not that far from us. So she stood in line there for whatever, 10 minutes. I told her what I wanted. And she came back, and I said to her, I said, did you miss me? Right? Like a wise guy, right? And, you know, and I caught her off guard. Like, so she had one of these nervous, like, she was exposed. Like, it was just like, you know, so she kind of had this nervous laughter and this and that and whatever. And I said to her, I said, you know what? Years from now, you are not even going to remember what we talked about, and neither am I. All you're going to remember is this moment, right? This feeling, this whatever, right? And at some point, you know, because we weren't always talking, we were just kind of hanging out there too, yeah. Right? Silently. And I turned to her and I looked at her and I said, and I don't know from where, I said, is this how it starts? I never saw anyone run so fast in my life, including, like, I'm telling you, Usain Bolt on steroids and amphetamines couldn't have caught this girl. She bolted so fast out of that room into one of the other rooms. And now I'm standing there and I'm mortified, right? Because A, I don't really know why I said what I said, but it was true, right? And B, now I'm like kind of crushed that I may have offended her, hurt her in some way or whatever. You know, it's my brother's client. Like, there's this fabulous party going on. So I kind of went to find her and whatever else. Now, after we were done talking, I had noticed this black girl, and you'll know her. Her name is Donna. I'm not gonna reveal to you, but she's in the hair business, and like, you know her for sure. So she walks by, and again, I say something that I don't know why I'm saying it. I said, I've been waiting for you. And she's like, excuse me? Like, you know how black girls get, they all get offended and aggressive and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, whatever, right? So we end up talking. Her daughter's there, and some of her assistants from the salon and other coworkers and things. And we were outside. I was having a smoke, having a good time, posing for pictures and all this other kind of stuff. And after a while, she said, "What's your name?" And the first thing I thought of was the girl in the gas station. I'm like, "It's Baby." And she's like, "What?" She thought I was playing her. And I said, "Listen, Donna, at the end of it all, it's what you're going to end up calling me anyway." I said, "Oh, baby, do you want a sandwich? Oh, baby, how you feel?" Whatever, right? I'm teasing her. But I had this connection with Donna. And every time I'd go to Yorkville, I'd go by to visit her, and we'd just have like just a wonderful time, right? Again, with no intent, right? Like, no, I'm not trying to get into anybody's pants. I'm not trying to cheat on my wife. I'm just enjoying this person as an individual when I'm with them. So there's a certain part of Yorkville that knows me only as Baby type thing. So now getting back to the story with my person and the connection. So she asked me for my name, and I say, so I know what she's asking. She's asking for my given name, but inside I feel it's Baby. So I hesitate for like a half a second, which can be an eternity. And I say Baby. And in that instance, it was like a sword went through my heart, kind of the pain that I saw in her eyes, the anger, the whatever. And then to her credit, she recovers unflappably. And this all happened in milliseconds.
Okay.
And somehow I was picking up on this.
So this is the gal that when you and your wife were on holidays, you're at the pool. Okay. And so the bottom line is that's obviously a twin flame connection. That Sophia, and watching that, Sophia talk, and you taking all the notes.
Oh yeah.
All of this back to you, so you could feel her pain. So obviously you and her had a past life.
Well, I had no idea about this at the time. Like,
but you
that
didn't
seems
at the
too
time.
woohoo to me.
Right. But at the time you felt it, and then you had to process it, Peter. The greatest thing you did was be honest. I mean, with you and Shelley, and process it. And that's why the wholeness comes. And I'm sure that's where Shelley fell in love with you. That could be another story. But this, to honor that, where instead of you shutting down, and what you do is your personality, you play. So it's like it's a interesting fifth house. It's like we always say, go back to being a child, go back to playing. So for somebody like you with such a strong intellect, to be able to go to play is what we're asking people to play, to be authentic, okay, and to honor who you are in this moment, and to honor everything that's gone here. Because at this point with the Aquarian energy is to be free and to be authentic and to be true. And if you have the ancestral, if you have the past life, and every one of those people that come into your life, you're playing in the moment, and it's honesty. So that's where I'm coming from now. So now, once you meet this person, now you get shattered or something happens. You have to process.
Well, the holiday was great because I didn't need to sleep. I didn't need to eat. It's like I rolled out of bed, like, not with bedhead, like perfect. Like I'm ready to go to a disco or something, whatever, right? So whatever vibe I was vibing in was in full effect without my knowledge. So I tell her this, I see all this stuff transpire in milliseconds. And in my mind, it was like, I said to myself, clear as day, I can say, I will never do anything to hurt this girl again. And I just met her 20, 30 minutes before.
Right.
Like, where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Right.
Oh my God.
So anyway, they're like, okay, we have to go. And get ready for dinner type thing, right? So we said our goodbyes. Shelley and I are back to sitting in the pool side by side. And as they're walking away, I turn to look at them walk off in the distance. And I see now my person limping severely. And I say to Shelley, I said, wow, I didn't realize how badly her leg was hurt. Now, remember, they're both doctors. So she's had this pain in her leg for 2.5 months. and every diagnostic tool available known to medicine, right, at her disposal. And none of the doctors can figure this out. So I say, wow, I didn't realize how badly she was injured. And again, without knowing why, I just say, I can fix her. Just like that. And a few days later, I actually did. Now, whether that was Reiki, whatever it was, I just knew where to touch her on her body. I just said, listen, if you don't mind, I said, I'd like to try and help fix your leg. And the way I'm going to touch you is going to be painful to the point of drawing tears. Now, at the time, I didn't know what her pain tolerance was. Extremely, extremely high. Both psychological, spiritual, you know, emotional, and physical, right? So off the charts pain tolerance. So I worked on her for a day or two. Boom. Healed. Like the look on her face, she was flabbergasted. She didn't know what to do. She's like, what the, like all these doctors couldn't figure this out. And you, by basically not even knowing what you're doing, did this. Now I've done this on clients before in my waiting room. Like they'll come in with shoulder pain, back pain. And I'm like, look, sit down. And somehow I just know where to touch them, how to touch them, whatever. And boom, and they're gone. Now that takes a severe beating on my body. So I don't know, whatever this energy or whatever it is that I tapped into just beats the absolute fuck out of me physically. Like I'm just emotionally drained, the whole thing, whatever, right? So I fix her, then I fix the other girl a couple days later because her back seized up because she intervened in this. We were going on a moonlight stroll, and where that was going to lead, who knows, right? When there was this drunk girl that was like passing out and started to vomit all over the hotel. And they had called the doctor, right? Like she's down laying over her and everybody's drunk and everybody's trying to, you know, trying to put their 2 cents worth in and do this and do that. So I know what they're telling her is wrong. So you have the other doctor on her knees down trying to help her. And now, like, I kind of went on tilt. I'm like, you know, like, that's it. Everybody back away. Get the fuck away from her. This is a doctor. Like, you're drunk, you know, whatever. I clear out the crowd. I let her do something until the hotel doctor comes. So they go to the hotel doctor. You know, we kind of go wash up, grab our drinks. And then we see them, her boyfriend and whatever, walking away out of the infirmary. And we're like, where the fuck are they going? Right? Like, this is bad. So back to intervening, I went back to the front desk. Now I'm totally pissed off. Where's the doctor? Oh, they didn't want to pay $200 US, you know, to have this medication. And the boyfriend doesn't want the father and mother to know that are staying somewhere else on this massive resort that this is going on, right? So I'm like, no, like, you know, if you take her to bed and she vomits in her sleep, she could die. Like this is fucked up, right? So we grab her, take, you know, kind of, I leave the doctor with her. I go to the front desk and, you know, half Spanish, half English. I'm like, no, you get the doctor back here right now. Like, because you don't understand, like, if this girl dies, like, you know, that's the beginning of your problems in the hotels, right? So we spent the night helping this girl. A couple of months later, I find an article on the internet that this exact strip of hotels from the Hard Rock Cafe down and a little bit past where we were staying, that within the past couple of months, 12 people or so had died of alcohol-related deaths. So somehow they're cutting stuff into the alcohol, which again, there was a big scandal in the 80s about countries in Europe that were trying to produce wines, and they were cutting it with basically with antifreeze, with like glycol mixture,
right.
Up, you know, whatever type thing. So this is what I suspect was going on. So this girl ends up saving her life. So the next day she was all seized up, this and that. So I work a day or two on her. Same expression, like, whoa, wow, like what just happened? Like, you know, you fixed me type thing.
Okay, but Peter, I just want to stop there for a second. First and foremost, you're not a Reiki master. You haven't had any background. No, but this is important. You haven't had any kind of, it's an intuitive thing. And as you say with your client,
yeah.
you're in the car business, so the clients come in. interesting, to fix their car. What is a car related to? Anytime, and you would know this, and this is important for you to know. If something's gone in a person's car, okay, the car is the body. So if it's the battery, what's happening with the body? If it's the brakes, what's happening with the body? So these people come into your business and you can actually help them physically. Now, when you say you get drained, if you were to do it now, it would be different, because you're more connected and more aligned with the divine. So now you're just a conduit. So you could work with, because I've been in that business of the healing and spas and stuff, where massage therapists, that if they work from their own being, not being the conduit, they're tired. But if you work from the spirituality, it comes down, the spirit comes and you're a healer. You touch them and you're healing, but you're the conduit for the divine energy.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Like, I mean, I need to look into it a little,
yes.
A little more. I know my son came home the other day, you know, kind of with some pain in his hip, unexplainable pain in his hip, right? And I just like, whatever, I touch him here. And then boom, right down to the middle of the calf. I lean in as hard as I can with my thumb. You know, he's like, you know, whatever. And then boom, he's like, it's gone. I'm like, all right, have a good night, you know, whatever. See you tomorrow, right? So yeah, I definitely have to look into that more. But
okay, so if you get back to the other person, we're talking about the other person right now that Peter and Shelley met, and it has to do with probably the twin flame.
Yeah.
And
so
how you suffered.
Oh yeah. So it comes down to it was our last night, or our last day, and we'd already checked out. We had our bags down by the pool, ready to catch the bus back to the thing. And Shelley kept getting updates on her phone that the flight was being delayed coming from Toronto, right? Because they were having bad weather and this and that.
Right.
And I'm like, listen, just chill out here. Just chill out, right? So the crowd was thinning as people were leaving to make their way back to the airport. And I'm not moving. Because somehow I knew that the flight's going to get canceled, right? So sure enough, the flight gets canceled. And Shelley goes, wow, they just canceled the flight. And right away, my person's like, well, you're just going to have to stay with us then, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, where else would we stay? So there's another story about me taking one last cruise around the thing, because Sophie said, she said, once you have this understanding of what happens to you through this twin flame experience and connecting to the divine, you understand all other things. So that if someone is approaching you, you know, down the street, and this is happening around the world right now. So if you're not wearing a mask, you've got a mask wearer that's frightened to death. They're giving you daggers with their eyes. You know, you see the fear in their eyes. They're pissing you off, right? Because they don't understand basic friggin' science. So there's all kinds of this stuff that are putting people at odds right now. Yeah. And the dark forces behind all of this are, they know this. Like, this is being pre-planned, like, not just for the last decade or 100 years. This goes back to the beginning. This is that battle between good and evil, which people don't even realize they're in it, right? They, you know, but anyway, so now that night I had this dream that like, I woke up screaming. I thought they were next to me. Basically, the dream was like I was dropping off into hell. But as I'm dropping off into this precipice of darkness, I'm thinking to myself in the dream, okay, there's no fire. I don't hear people screaming. Even though this seems like hell, it's not hell. But I say to myself, that's it? Like, I'm going to cast off my religion somehow? And woke up screaming. So now, like, I'm in a sweat. I look over at the three of them. They're lying in a row next to me. They're sleeping like babies, right? So I'm like, oh, good. Like, I didn't wake them up, right? So I'm unnerved. I wake up early the next morning before they do. I go and watch the sunrise. Like, I'm processing all this kind of stuff. I go back to one of the restaurants where I can keep an eye on the balcony of the room that the three of them are in. And I see them come out on the balcony, and they're getting wet bathing suits and packing, because they have to leave now today as well and go back to Scandinavia. So you know, and they're laughing and chatting, you know, and I'm just tearing up watching this. And then I see them come down, and they sit at another part of the restaurant where I can see them and they can't see me, right? And I'm just like, I'm filled with happiness and emotions, right? So the day after the first meeting, right? The next morning we went down for breakfast, and the way Shelley describes it is, she goes, I knew you were agitated. She goes, because at breakfast, like, you weren't eating anything, you were looking around, you were whatever. And then Shelley grabbed a couple of big cups of coffee, right? Because Canadians, when they go to an all-inclusive, they know to bring their own, you know, big insulated coffee mug, right? Because they're used to lining up at the drive-through, you know, at the coffee thing, right? So she goes, I'm going to grab us coffee. I'm going to go down and get us beach chairs. And I said, okay, I'm just going to take a swing around the pool and look for the girls. So the pool where we met them at, they weren't there. And I was like my heart sank somehow, right? So I saw this little pathway through the shrubs that led to another pool. And I said, let me check there. And the first night after check-in, me and Shelley went for a moonlight stroll, and, you know, got a little amorous, actually, as it turns out, right in that same spot, right? Right. You know, kind of late in the night, right? So anyway, I pop up, and there they are, right? Boom. So I start talking, this and that. And I forget how much time went by, maybe hours, but it, you know, seemed like a blink of an eye. And Shelley comes up and goes, there you are, right? I've been looking for you and whatever. I said, well, where else do you think I'd be? Sit down, right? So we sat down, and the whole rest of the week, we were basically the four of us within arm's length of each other. But every day that I would kind of walk through that hedgerow, right? Little shout out to Led Zeppelin there, hedgerow. I understand what that means. So I would walk out, and as soon as I saw her, this is how I can describe it. It was like, like everything just, boom, just stabilized. Like it was like this calm, contented excitement. I don't know how to describe it. And it wasn't like we were always talking about deep level stuff. Like, sometimes we were just playing, the four of us, beer pong and having a laugh and, you know, doing fun stuff, right? So, but every single day it was like this feeling. So now I have this feeling all week, you know, at dinner, you know, during walks, during disco, beach parties, all of it. The last day we're leaving, so we get in the pool where we met, where I did a lot of the healing work on her. And like, we're not talking now. We have 15 minutes to say goodbye, right? So she's not looking at me. We're kind of side by side, bobbing up and down in the pool, and she says, thanks. Right. And I say to her, I go, for the first time in my life, I know what the words "my pleasure" means, right? Right. And that's it. And we're just kind of in the pool looking at each other and whatever. And she kind of starts kind of skipping away, like, you know, as girls do in the pool, over to the wall where I did a lot of the, you know, painful work on her. And I said, listen, why don't you tell me about yourself? I said, I don't know anything about you. Even though we've spent 12 to 14 hours a day within arm's length talking about anything and everything that my heart desires, which she later said to me after in an email, everything we spoke about that week, I had been thinking of already myself. So she kind of laughingly looked over her shoulder and said, you know, what would you like to know? Right. And kind of giggled over. Flip it. Yeah. Yeah. So I went over there, and now I'm staring into her eyes. right? We're not talking. And she has these blue eyes, you know, in the background's the sunset, and looking into her eyes was like, it was like the stars were in her eyes. Like I could see through her eyes, through the background's daytime blue sky with the stars in it, right? So this is the feeling I have. And actually before that, before she skipped away, I said to her, and again, I don't know why, I said, when you find out how bad you actually are, you'll be embarrassed, right?
Right.
So she goes over there, we're staring like that wordlessly, right? And so my wife and her friend are like, okay, come on, we got to go. So we get out of the pool. And as we're walking, you know, to our towels and to actually say the last goodbye, like these words come out of me that I couldn't suppress. And they're like, I'm trying not to cry, like I'm choking it back. And I'm like, I want to be with you forever, right? And now it wasn't like, oh, okay, let's be husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, or anything like this. It was just like forever, like eternity, like in heaven and all this kind of stuff. Like I couldn't put it into words other than these mangled words. And as everybody knows, that sometimes words just do not convey the full extent of the meaning, right? And she leaned in to hug me, right? And we're hugging, and she starts sobbing, right? Uncontrollably. And I'm trying to choke back tears, like I'm tearing up. There's 100 people at the pool wondering what this dude in his 50s and this 25-year-old girl are doing. And like, I think the hardest thing I had to ever do was push her away from me, right? And I pushed her away from me at arm's length. And boom, she came back in again. And, you know, more crying, more holding. By this time, her friend is like, come on, you're going to miss the plane. You're going to miss the plane. Shelly's like, honey, we got to go. Like, we're going to miss the plane, you know, whatever type thing, right? And so I let her go again. And I'll tell you, Sandra, like, it was like a piece of my soul got ripped out of me. That's the only way I can explain it. That is the only way I can explain it. And they continued to cry, and we walked off. And, you know, I'm in a taxi because everyone's gone the night before. Like, from our, you know, charter plane from Toronto, we're the only ones left here. So they put them all up in other hotels and stuff like that. And we're taking the taxi ride, and I'm there, and then we get onto the plane, and now the plane's delayed. They're calling out for 2 people. So now it's like another hour on the tarmac in the plane, right? And they're calling out this guy and this girl. And in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, don't even get on it. Just fucking go, whatever. I don't even know these people. Just in my mind, I'm like, just go, right? So we have a flight back. We had a good flight back. We had 3 seats to ourselves. We're napping, cuddling, having a good time. But my mood is now going down and down and down a little bit, right? And we get to Toronto, where our son's waiting for us, and my son is like, and I rarely talk about my kids, but this is the kind of guy that I've never told him to make his bed. He's never backtalked me. He's never late for work. He's generous, kind, all these things, and he makes Brad Pitt look ugly, like on top of it. So, like, I mean, the poor guy. Like, I don't know where he's ever going to find a girl, right? Because I actually see clients, like, they'll come in, like, you'll have a client, like, whether she's in her late teens, early 20s, whatever, comes in with the mom in her 40s, 50s, and they look at this kid and they just both want to devour this guy. Like, I see it. I saw it with my own friend, like, that I was roommates with in Japan. Like, she came in with her new husband and her daughters, and he had come in a bit later. They were already sitting there, and she was just like, and after a few minutes, I was like, I said her name about 3 times. I'm like, hey, take it easy here, right? Like, so and he's not even aware of this kind of stuff, right?
No.
So here's this great guy waiting for us, and we get in the thing, and now I'm like in this descending mood, like I'm getting chirpy with him, getting this lane, getting that lane, what are you doing, you know, whatever type thing. Totally unwarranted, uncalled for type thing. I later apologized for him. We get home that night, and we are, Shelly's kind of at the kitchen table. She's going through some bills. We haven't even unpacked yet. I was coming, I don't know, from the bedroom, walking through the living room into the kitchen. And Shelly stops and says to me, she goes, well, honey, I think you found your second wife. So I look at her, nonplussed, and I say, yeah, I think you might be right. Just like that. First thing coming out of my mouth. And I carry on about my business. Never think a thing, right? So that night, we go to bed, and I'll tell you the intensity of this connection that I like. I didn't even kiss her other than on the cheek, right? And I never had any untoward thoughts or feelings for her. And you know, me and Shelly are doing it, and as we're doing it, I'm feeling like, and this is gonna piss off your viewers that are traumatized with their own relational things, right? Even you to an extent. I'll tell you, I'll expose you too on this one. But
you know, no, it won't, because I understand where you're coming from.
Okay, all right, okay. So, but again, you know, a lot of viewers are going to energetically give me some you know, bad juju or whatever over this. But I told Shelly later, I said it was like I was cheating on her with you.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Right? So now I didn't say it right away. So as the time went by, it got to the point that this intensity of this connection made me want to basically merge with her, you know, on a molecular level, if you can describe it that way. Yeah. Right? Like it was just to get that feeling back, that boom, whatever. So months later, and Shelly's absorbing this. Like, these are some serious heavy duty blows for a wife to absorb.
Exactly.
Like, just, you know, like, I can't say enough about Shelly, right? So Shelly basically, you know, is kind of like meeting my dream girl that excels my dreams, right? Right. And is continuing to do so to this day. Meeting my other person was like meeting the complete summation of every single woman that I've ever loved or have known significantly in my life. Boom, right there in front of me, right? So once Shelly started to grasp after a few weeks or months how intense this feeling was once I was describing it, right? So she was like, wow. She goes, you'll go to the ends of the earth to get this feeling back. I said, honey, not only do I want to get this feeling back, I want everybody to have this feeling, up to and including my worst enemy. Right. Like, you know, and still not knowing anything of what's going on, right? It's still early on. Now, I had a client of mine who, he's a pretty smart guy, and he had over the years invited me to like trivia night and so on and so forth, where he goes with his buddies, have a couple beers and blah, blah, blah. So I'm basically immobilized, right? I'm at home 20 hours a day, doing my research, doing whatever. And, you know, he calls up, do you want to come? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go, right? So I go, and I ask, now I'm in a room full of, you know, very intelligent people, you know, maybe not Mensa Club members, but, you know, they're higher than normal, right? And I'm picking up energies from people, and I don't even know, I don't even know, right? Yet what's going on, how things are going on. So I say, why, you know, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Right. And he goes, well, I find that, you know, after a week, I got a lot of stuff on my mind to come here for a couple hours. And while I'm focusing on the trivia and having beers and having a good time with my friends and, you know, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I find I'm not thinking about very much. So whatever, right? I continue to go through it. I'm giving him answers when I can, and I'm just checking out stuff, right? And I left after, you know, once the thing was over, and I'm driving home, and I remember the exact place I was on the road. And I thought to myself, this is the first time in 5 months that I have not continually been thinking about this woman.
Perfect.
Like, can you imagine?
No.
So when Sophie corroborated this, right, as an effect that other people go through, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm not crazy. Because this whole time I'm thinking to myself, this woman's going to think I'm crazy. She's a doctor. Has to have run a differential diagnosis on me, because I'm doing it on myself to try and figure out what's going on. And we're still intermittently in communication. Early on, and let me tell you this, how intense this was too. So it was maybe within 24 hours, no later than the second email between us. Oh, and let me tell you this. At some point, a few days into the trip, me and Shelly are walking down to the pool one morning, and we stop and we look at each other, and we basically simultaneously say, has time slowed down for you? Right? And we're both like, yeah, it has. You know, like, we have this perception of time slowing down now, so that every day is like a week in itself, right? Every hour is like a day, you know, whatever, right? So, but one of the other things, we were at the pool, and I'm, you know, just sitting in the lounge chair, and I look over at my person and I say, what are you thinking about? Or, what are you looking at? She was looking at something on her phone, and she says, I'm looking at this picture of us, of her and I, that her friend had taken of us. This one, you know, the one that we look like twins. And she flips it over to me. Now, how you get a silver-haired businessman from Ontario and a whatever, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Scandinavian from the Arctic as twins, I understood later what she meant, but at the time it's flabbergasting. But I just looked at it and like, yeah, I totally get it, right? Handed her the phone back, carried on with the rest of the week. So, probably the second email that I sent, I said, listen, I said, this is going to sound crazy. I said, but, and this isn't even with my further understanding of love that we talked about at the beginning of the interview.
Right.
You know, I said, this is going to sound crazy to you, but I said, this week together, I think I fell in love with you. And I said, further to that, I think you fell in love with me as well. And I said, not only that, but I had the distinct feeling, you know, when I was looking into her eyes there, I said, I had the distinct feeling that you would have died for me. Right? Now, actually, I told her before that I had the feeling that I would have died for her. And then I said, further to that, I had the distinct feeling that you actually would have died for me. And, you know, I think Shelly proofread the email, like, no secrets here, whatever. I sent it off to her. And I'm like, well, that's the last I'm ever going to hear from her, right? So sure enough, I get a response. Yeah, cool. Not what I expected on holiday. And then she goes on to explain, as per basically the feeling of dying for you, if it came down to it in real life, I don't know if I actually would. Now, you can relate this to all the religious guys, you know, that talk about how much they love Jesus, and that if some dude was about to chop their head off with a sword, asking them to renounce Jesus and, you know, all this other stuff, that if you're really honest with yourself, like, you don't know if you're actually going to do that, right? which I already had this dream basically doing that, right? And again, not from a religious perspective. Like, I haven't been to a church in I don't know how many years, because I tend to expose the hypocrisy of all the pastors and priests and whatever. And over the last 2 decades, the amount of meetings I've had with these people, it's just clear that they're hypocrites, right? So, and don't have a full understanding of the word of God, which, when you distill it down to a singular word, ends up being love, right?
Okay, and you know
The
what?
word of God is love. Yeah.
Right. So I think that this is a lot for people to absorb. Okay, so now, because you know what I want to do is I want to move this through. I want to do this video, and I'm actually going to send this to Sophia, because as I said, I want to connect the two. Now, the interesting thing is, I want to say to everybody, I have been very blessed to be a part of the process, because Peter had contacted me. I had actually done a reading, and you and I talked before that, and you shared everything. And it was really interesting for me. It was like there was no judgment, okay? But it was like, so how did Shelley handle it? I had not met Shelley, and Shelley actually ended up, we friended, and then you guys got the book and everything, and you talk about it. And for me, this is the true Aquarian relationship. And this is what Changer was based on. It's not based on the need.
That last part broke up. What you said about being based on it broke up. I didn't hear it.
Okay, so basically that's what the book Game Changer is based on, the spiritual aspect of love. We're moving from the third dimension, the actual physical, just the sexuality, to more of an all-encompassing. So the bottom line is supporting each other on the soul journey. And the bottom line is not getting jealous when somebody just coming in. But the bottom line is the jealousy comes if there is no truthfulness, if there's openness and transparency and authenticity, then the other person doesn't feel, because we're getting intuitive. So because you were so open, so honest, and everything with everything, and now the next time that we come back, Shelley's going to be there, and you can say how she fell in love with you and how you reconcile. And I know that you were in a lot of pain when I had talked, a tremendous amount of pain. I could feel your pain. However, I intuitively knew that you would work it through, because you were ready to work it through. This is what's happening with people. And that's why, for me, it's so important. I can't make anybody do anything. But when somebody like you comes up and says, this is what's happening. And this week, you wouldn't believe the amount of people I've had. Somebody, I need to have a session with you immediately. Like, I'm melting down. It's this. Every one of them, our relationship. And because we have Mercury sitting in Scorpio right now, it's about truth. It's doing the deep dive. This is absolutely the perfect time. So I'm going to summarize this. This is Peter, okay? And
Sandra, hold on. Before you summarize it, I just want to ask you something about symbolism. As you've been saying all this stuff about Age of Aquarius and all this stuff, I'm literally, covered with ladybugs crawling all over the thing. So what's the spiritual significance of ladybugs, if you know?
Well, I have to look it up right now. For me,
okay, all right. For
me, ladybugs has always been, they say if there is a ladybug is very lucky. But right now, I'm going to go on my phone because this is important.
Okay, because like they're crawling all up the iPad here and all over where I have it, and
ladybugs.
So I'm a little bit curious, right? So
significance. Ladybug significance here. This is really important. Listen, the ladybug is a bringer of gifts. It brings oil to Jesus, wine to Mary, and bread to God the Father. It is in particular the bringer of good things to humans, clothes, pots, jewels. These gifts are usually in gold, thus the name Goldybird for ladybug in parts of England. Okay. What do ladybugs symbolize? Because I always like to take two. So it's the ladybug spirit animal, and its symbolism, good luck. That's what I was going to say. For me, that's the first thing. Ladybug is said to give blessings to those she encounters. Master in the art of metamorphosis. She transforms from a hideous larva to a beautiful insect adorned with bright colors. This totem is a powerful ally to make important changes in your life and go through your life's journey with ease. Okay, believe in yourself and dare. And so right now, my idea of what's happening with the world, we are in Armageddon, the dark and the light, and it's not about out there. Okay, it's about here. And that's what you said with your other. It was like your mirror. It was you that had to do the work, and you have a beautiful spiritual soul near you that allowed you to do the work. And so my thing is, we are unfolding, and that's even on my website. Let me help you through the metamorphosis or the transformation and the alchemy of life so that you can go from being the caterpillar, go through the change, to being the butterfly, to being free. Okay, does that make sense? And
yeah.
basically what's happened. And this is why it's so powerful. And you and I and Shelley and Sophia are different parts of the world, and we have connected through a process called synchronicity so that we share this with other people that are going through it, Peter. So this is so beautiful.
The funny thing is last night I found a video on from my old neuroscience professor, and it actually talks about brain synchronicity type thing. And one of the ladies he was working with, she actually speaks on the video as well. They were doing testing. The video's from 2016. Dr. Persinger died 2 years ago, I think. They were doing experiments from Canada to Europe with picking up brain waves and thoughts. So this is out there, and it's measurable, and it would help you and a lot of people that would have an interest in this kind of thing, right? So it's not always just what they would view. I don't know how to describe it other than tea ladies or whatever, right? Like, do you know what I mean by that? Like tea leaf readers and.
You know what, Peter? I know exactly what you're talking about. Because for me, I connect here. So even when I was living in Hawaii, I was with this couple, and he said to me, why is it when a man walks in a room, he said, I feel that you put a wall there? Because I said, I know what they're coming to me for. It's here. It's not words. And when I was 2 years old, I can remember being here thinking, this is going to be tough. I come from a different place, and part of my purpose and part of my learning is to be able to put into words the feeling and the energy, because we're energy beings. We're being downloaded now. We have all these insights, okay? And it's to share that. And so for me, words can be like this, and working with the Aboriginals for words, we know that people speak with forked tongues. Energetically, we don't. And so it's time where you talk about the masks. Everything is relevant right now. We can't lie. The true colors are showing for everyone. And all I can say is thank you for being able to express the true energetic being you are and what you have gone through, what your significant other has gone through. I call it, rather than wife, your significant other who shared in this shift into the Aquarian energy. Because for those that can't do it, it's going to be a tough route. It's the dark night.
Oh, yeah. Since the last time we spoke, I guess, I don't know, 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 6. mind-blowing stuff, but it won't surprise you. It'll be like, yeah, whatever, right? Like now I just kind of roll with it. Like a few days ago I was on Facebook and I can get to cracking wise, like making jokes on Facebook and stuff like that, on people's threads and things like that, right? So there was this girl that I connected with, and we ended up becoming friends basically before the end of the conversation. But I was picking up stuff on her energetically, and I thought, you know what? Let me get off this thread before I ruin this serious thread with her and I going back and forth, right? So I send her this DM or whatever on Messenger, and I'm like, wow, like you're so amazing, this and that. And I haven't even, other than that little picture that you see that pops up when people make a comment, I don't know anything about this girl other than I know she's amazing, whatever, right? So we go through our stuff, back and forth on the thing, and what a good time we had, and because she was quite playful too, right? Which I love, and people don't do enough of, right? Because of all this programming that we're overlaying.
Right.
She said something to me. She goes, like, I view you as some kind of visionary, right? And I was like, okay, well, I've never really thought of that. Can you expound on that? But because of my overwhelming nature, I thought, okay, now she just thinks there's some dude trying to, whatever, right? And then she posts this other stuff somewhere else. I see it. And it has to do with EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, and 5G, and getting away from it. So she's in a remote area of the world. She's Australian, I know, but she's in a remote area of the world that doesn't have this yet, and there's no bullshit and whatever. And I said, man, I better stop communicating with her. Like, I don't want to flip her out. And a couple days went by, and I ended up sending her the first video that we made.
Right.
I haven't heard yet back from her, but I found that Dr. Persinger video about brain synchronicity.
Right.
That if I can find her post, I'll put the post there for everyone to see, and not just her. But and then after that, I checked kind of her profile, some of her pictures. She's an artist. She does basically she specializes in like watercolors and nude women paintings, but she knows all this other stuff. She's always getting banned and kicked off of Facebook, kind of like you, right? So there's this whole confluence of kind of geopolitical and, corporate and government fuckery, to use Sophie's word there from your video last week.
Right.
But just so many amazing things have happened in between because of this. So I'm looking forward to discussing what you think we should discuss, whatever, right? But we're on to something big here. We're on to something big.
We are, and it's about sharing with people the personal experience. It's not about the intellectual. It's not about I'm going to sit and meditate and I'm having this. This is actual life experience that is in the embodiment. So it's an embodiment, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I do have to say, because Shelley came on and her and I were talking at first, and the first time I met her, or seen her when it was about the friends, it was like she's at peace. She's happy.
Yeah.
She's happy and she's at peace. And to be honest, I even said to you when you and I talked at first, like, how in the hell did your wife handle this? It was,
oh yeah.
Well, I did, and I actually, because I'm very honest, just like, do you know, maybe you hurt her or something? I mean, because I'm honest, and I'm so blessed. I thank the universe every day for where I am and for the people that have come into my life, because this is not about me, Peter. This is about me being able to assist, like you, with your healing. This is me sharing everybody. I'm so blessed to have this group. I don't call it a group, a bunch of amazing souls that have come together at this particular time. And it's because December 20th, 21st, I'm telling you, is going to be a big shift. And by 2023, 2024. And so it's all about you doing the work. It's about a person being authentic. It's about a person being true to themselves and true to their souls and true to others. And emotional dishonesty in couples right now is the thing that's tearing people apart. True color.
Yeah.
Now I want to let you say your goodbyes to everybody, because I'm saying my goodbye to you and thank you, and I'm going to turn the recording off. And what I want to do is I want to send it, because I want it up this weekend, because we're still in the Mercury. It's perfect timing, and now we're going to be moving into the full moon, and so they'll have a chance to really absorb.
Okay, yeah. I'll send you that video I found last night that I think you'll find of interest. And if there's a way to link it to this, or you find it relevant, then please do so, because with technology, I'm horrible.
But so I can't link it on YouTube because of things. Right. But what we can do is, if you share it on your feed, like on your Facebook, then I could share it. Or if you give me permission, I mean, I can just.
Oh yeah. I'll send it to you on Messenger, and then you do what you have to do. And if there's something I have to do, like, I mean, I just got rid of my rotary phone, like, a couple years ago, so I'm not really good at this. But one thing you mentioned before I interjected there, you said that this is such a gift. This is such a gift.
It is.
So this word, this experience, even from early on, before I knew what was going on, whatever, I just kept repeating it over and over, like, this is a gift. This is a gift, not just my person, whatever, right? So I looked up the word gift in Swedish, and it's pronounced differently, gift, right? So it has two meanings. One is curse, which is what it felt like. In the midst of it, it felt like a curse, right? So it's like a gift, as we all know the meaning of gift. Now it feels like curse, but the other meaning in Swedish of gift is marriage. Now, marriage, when I say marriage, and the reason why I think they're falling apart is because people have a misunderstanding of kind of love and the way it ought to be. The way we've been programmed by television, movies, music, books, all of that kind of stuff is that marriage is the epitome of love, whereas it's not. It's not. I know that now, and I can explain it to you. Sophie can explain it. She explains some of it. You probably understand it. So I think the mission or the vision here is to have the world know about that. Like, this is how significant it is. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it sounds boastful or crass or whatever, but I mean, this is just me being me, right? Like, what am I supposed to do? Deny like a half century of coincidental meetings and learnings and all of this stuff? Like, no, it's here. It's now. The time's now. And now is the only time we have, right? We're all trapped in the past. We're all worried about the future that usually never happens the way people think. Now, the present moment is what we have. And I'm not saying that like, all these newfound gurus all over the internet that are just trying to get laid, now is what we have. No, now is the only thing that we exist in. We have links to the past, like you said, past lives and all this kind of stuff. But we really need to shift into this, what you're talking about.
Right. It's being in the gift is the present. And the most interesting thing when you talked about the gift, I was doing some psychotherapy with a very incredible woman years ago, and she said to me, what's it like to have your gift? She said, your gift is your creativity, but you can get lost in it. I was working at a fine arts school, in that time. And she said, Sandra, tell me what it's like to be in the flow. Because she said, I can see you. It's your greatest gift, yet it's your curse. Because she said, you can go through that for 18 hours and you just flow. And when you talk about marriage, we're talking, Peter, about the sacred marriage, the self-discovery of the person, taking the time to to go into introspection and reflect. We don't take the time. We've been so busy. So now we've been shut down, because the sacred marriage in the runes, which is very interesting because it's Nordic, okay? And it is, your sacred marriage is with the divine. And it's very,
Yeah.
I'm working with a gal last night late. She's from Qatar or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Person, but she's thinking of moving to Sweden.
Okay.
Sweden or Canada. So it's very interesting, all of this introspection now. But I'm going to say thank you, Peter. I'm going to cut this off now. I'm going to start recording. And if you want to tell everybody, you and Shelley will be back to share more.
Oh yeah, no, I look forward to it. I thank people for, you know, taking the time and whatever. And even though, you know, probably sounds like it's about me, like it's not about me. It's like what you say, connecting with the divine, knowing yourself. You said, you know, and you say it in your book too, which I'm immensely enjoying. Like I'm having fun going through this, but I have so many other things on the go. That's why it's taking me so long. There was a delay in getting it, but anyway, yeah. So it's scary, but you know, people have to do this. Like, you know, you have to be you, because like I saw on a Facebook post on someone's face, you know, you have to be you because everyone else is taken, and people, you know,
it's perfect. So what I want to leave everybody with is, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Number one, please please share. Would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Again, you can order yourself the book. And one of the most important things right now, I really would like to see more feedback in the comment section, and how you could get a hold of Peter if he's interested. I will share the different comments and put it there, because it's about all of us together working through this. This is the most important thing. So much love, many blessings, and that's it. And I'm going to